My name is Denisha Barnes, and today we'll be doing an overview of a project proposal to build a foster home community, and this is for business communication, Mrs. Livesay's class. The agenda overview for today will cover the introduction, the statistics, the solutions, the schedule, the baseline, a sample print and layout, the summary, and the references, of course. So to deduce a more focal vantage point, we looked at the state of Georgia, which houses 11,000 foster kids into the system, but only 400 or 4,599 licensed foster homes are available to these children. So those children who do not have an option of staying in one of those facilities stay within a hotel room or mitigated to various different placements, and this shows a clear deficit of an issue that needs some sort of resolution. The next section will be about statistics, the statistics of foster children versus parental children and how their socio-emotional intelligence varies. And then you'll be looking at rehabilitation statistics of children who stay in foster care versus the ones who age out or are adopted into permanent residency. The first comparison chart covers the orphan versus adopted across all 50 states, derived from 2025. This shows the adopted, the kids who go into the system versus the kids who are adopted, and then the percentage of those kids that actually obtain permanent residency after the adoption, and it's always a little under half. This comparison chart shows orphan children's socio-emotional rates versus the parented children's socio-emotional rates. So for the age of 17, of course, this is a projectile probability, but those have been studied intensely. Now you will see that the children in teen pregnancy, it has quite a varied statistic rating because those kids do not have the self-sustainability for themselves. Therefore, they don't want to produce children on top of that. And you see a very big growth rate in the parental side. And you also see the high probability of homelessness. Almost a third of them are homeless. Out of all the adopted kids, and then you see twice as much mental health issues with orphan kids in comparison to parented. This risk chart identifies the potentiality of the risks and the probability that they will occur within these kids. And as you can see, you have higher ratings of placements, mental health, incarceration, homelessness, abuse. But then you also have to consider that these kids, they lose their material goods and they also get lost within that system, and we want to try to reduce that. And then we have the children who are 1 year old or less who get returned back to the foster care system because their incomprehension ability of differentiating what's right and wrong. And so some people can't work with that as well. This next section will be going over the proposed solution in congruence to the project proposal that I put together. So the first thing we assess is the team. Who do we want on our team? Of course, I'll be the acting client. You'll need a project manager. You'll have your craftsmen. But then also, we want to offer the opportunity for community involvement. Anybody who does want to put forth any sort of stability into the environment, who want to help build, who want to help groom the children, who want to integrate in any way to bring marketability, to get these children out there for other families to know that they're readily available, and come together to have this project be a success. So when considering this project, we wanted to make sure that there was positive impact on these children. So we looked at children who were both foster care children. One was adopted, one was not. Or a group was adopted, a group was not. And how their rehabilitation factored into all this and how it changed their mental stability. And you can see a great increase and improvement in each one of these categories, but you see a substantial decrease in teen pregnancy, which is always good because it's hard enough to sustain on your own, and especially if you have a high likelihood of being homeless at some point. So we look at the timeline. So the projected finish for this project would be the 24th of December 2027, right before Christmas. So we broke it down like this. We have milestones, we have tiered quarters, which are small iterations to make sure that we can get additional funding to keep the subsequent activities going. And we did that by breaking those quarters into 7 house builds. And then we move on to project completion, which will have a substantial completion, which defines that we're done building the housing sectors for this project, and we have only the sports area and the finishing touches for the overall project in order to finish on December 24th, 2027. This proposed schedule is laid out with each activity along with durations. You can clearly see the logic, how everything's waterfalled and tied in, and then the float is built into the activity durations, allowing for volatility to move the logic wherever you need it to ensure that this project can be completed on time. The tiered approach allows for the shifts within the schedule. The next 2 slides will show the proposed budget and the accrued interest from rental equipment to SOR variance, and that classifies as disbursement payments. And then you have your PMT labor, which are project management team labor that you need, who have the code regulation certifications, quality assurance certifications, and have all the higher level skills that we need. And then you have craft, and of course their breakdown of hours, if they were to get overtime hours, how many of those people we need, and all the resources leveled. Blueprints and examples. So the sample blueprint that is shown on screen is a schematic I created that's a foundational look ahead of what each layout of the buildings will be. Of course, there will be small variances within it, but the gist of it is congruent. And then you have the example of what the vision, the whole of the vision, is going to be for the project. So in conclusion, we want to consider why we are doing this. We're doing this for kids who do not have or possess the ability to self-sustain at this point. They don't have the support system to go and find the resources to help them work through some of the changes that they've had, the different variables within their life. And we're looking to provide them with some sort of leeway so that they have a fighting chance, because life is already hard enough, right? We want to make it easier for the next generation. We want to also help at the same time by closing the gap on this deficit that's already operating within the system, and allowing these kids a fighting chance to have a sustainable and a maintainable adult life, and be able to operate and function as an adult with all the stresses, like any other person. So it's just to give them a fighting chance. Thank you for your time, your patience, consideration, and your active listening. If you have any more questions, please let me know. Again, my name is Danisha Barnes. That's my email below.